It's Nicole, and today I'm going to be doing another little movie discussion about movies that I watched as a kid that terrified me and kind of my new thoughts or opinions, I guess, on them. It's not going to be like a super deep dive into the movies or anything. It's just going to be kind of my quick little reaction or my first initial reaction after rewatching them again. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. So the movies that I decided to kind of rewatch and react to are Children of the Corn, The Sixth Sense, Signs, and The Ring. So I know there probably are other movies that I watched as a kid that terrified me, but these were the first initial ones that came to my mind. So I went ahead, found them online, rewatched them, and I have some new opinions of them. Some of them, I guess, maybe possibly the same. So the first one we're going to be talking about is Children of the Corn, and this one came out in, 1984. And, first I wanted to say, too, that some of these movies, like Children of the Corn, did not come out when I was a kid, but I watched them as a kid, so that's why they terrified me as a kid. So anyway, so the first one, Children of the Corn, came out in 1984, and the reason this scared me as a kid was probably the beginning scene in the whole movie where they are in the diner and it's showing the kids killing the people in the diner. And it scared me because it was very, I guess, graphic for me at that time. When I was younger, I was always afraid of kind of gore and things like that. So that is why that scared me. I actually specifically remember watching this at a sleepover, like a little birthday party. And I was so terrified to watch this movie that I hid in my sleeping bag for the rest of the night and just fell asleep that way, even though it was sweltering hot in there, but I was too terrified to even care. But yeah, so rewatching it the second time around, I have some different opinions. I don't necessarily think it was that scary. I think the best part of the movie was still the beginning scene of the movie, which is when the kids are in the diner killing all the adults, just because, I don't know, to me it seems like that was a good setting tone for the whole movie, but I feel like the movie was kind of a letdown in the rest of it because there was no real, I guess, other climactic points. Also, just kind of, I feel like a lot of the film was just had a lot of how is this going on type of thing. You don't really see how what is going on. Like, how are these kids living in a town where seemingly just disappeared off the face of the planet, I guess. No one knows what's going on there. Like, it's kind of hard to believe. But of course, you have to remember that this is a movie, so it's for entertainment purposes. So of course, not everything's going to be making sense, but still, I kind of thought it was a little bit slow, didn't really keep my attention. I found myself doing a lot of other things while it was playing, like, looking at my phone and doing other internet stuff. But I feel like the acting was kind of off too. I don't know, something about it just wasn't really holding my attention. It seemed kind of corny and just had a lot of questions. And if there was, I feel like they should have just taken that beginning scene and just kind of kept going with that. It was cool, of course, when Isaac was killed towards the end. But, that was pretty much it. There wasn't really much going on else for that film. So, this film I am going to talk about is The Sixth Sense, which stars Bruce Willis and has Haley Joel Osment as it, who is a child at the time. So, of course, this is a pretty iconic film. When I watched it, I was, I think, 8 years old. It came out in 1999, so yeah, I must have been about 8 years old. And I remember when I watched this, I believe I was with my mom or something. And when I watched it, a lot of the scenes that terrified me were, of course, the scenes where the ghost would appear on the screen. So, for example, one of the scenes that pops into my head automatically is the scene where Cole is with Bruce Willis's character and he sees the hanging bodies in the hallway of his school. Another one is when there's the kid that was shot in the head. He walks from, I think, the hallway to the bedroom. A lot of those types of scenes are really kind of what scared me. I think it's because of kind of the shock value to it too. I wasn't really expecting to see that type of a ghost on the screen when I was a kid at that time. So it was very shocking for me. And yeah, I think just also the idea of seeing ghosts that look that scary as a kid in general is pretty terrifying. So just that idea in itself is what scared me as well. I didn't remember anything of what the story was about either because I think I was such a young child when I first watched it. So the second time around, when I watched it, I actually felt like it was a very depressive movie. It was very bleak and sad, and it kind of just made me feel for the mom character in it, who is, oh my god, what's her freaking name? Toni Collette. Anyway, so I really felt for her. It was kind of very sad in that like the kid didn't feel like he was able to express himself, or I guess maybe he feared, and if he did express himself to his mother, that maybe he would be ridiculed or criticized or judged for it. And then I just felt a lot of that despair from the mom in that her want and desire to communicate with her kid and I guess just make him feel supported and secure. um, I just felt like she didn't know how to help him when she knew that he needed help. And of course, I don't have a kid or anything, but I feel like that would be a difficult situation to be in as a parent, is to want to help your child but not know how to. And so that was very sad to me. And I did cry a few times in this movie, so being like a thriller or type of movie, I guess I wouldn't think that I would be crying, but I did cry quite a few times. But yeah, I really enjoyed the movie, and I didn't think it was scary the second time around. I just thought it was very sad, but at the end it was very hopeful too, because he finally does open up to his mother and lets her know, that he can see ghosts, and like basically his gifts in that. And she accepts him for that. Or at first she was a little, she didn't really believe it, but she accepts him for it, and it just seems very hopeful that their relationship is now going to build, and they can maybe become a happier as a family because they now have an understanding of one another. And yeah, so I really enjoyed it. The third one we're going to be talking about is Signs. That came out in 2002, and again, I think I was about 11 or 12 or something like that when this movie came out. And I remember seeing it in theaters with my mom and my brother and my sister. And I think out of the three of us, even though my siblings are younger than me, I was the one who was the most terrified, of course, after watching this movie. And again, the scene that comes to my mind when I was younger that terrified me was the scene. It's kind of like, I think it was like news footage of a family recording a birthday party. And in the scene, they're recording, and the alien like walks across the screen, or he walks across like an alleyway or something like that. And that's what scared me, because I was not expecting it. I remember being like that sinking feeling in your body. That's what I remember feeling. And watching it the second time, again, kind of like Signs, I felt like it was a little depressive in the sense, again, that there was some type of conflict between the parent figure, which was Mel Gibson's character, and the children in the movie. So there was definitely some conflict. I guess it's just kind of showing like the aftermath of like a death in the family. That can affect a family, I guess, in the negative way, where in the beginning, when the mother dies, he was a preacher, but then when she passes, he kind of loses his faith, and he doesn't believe in God anymore, or that anything is like either a miracle or happens or is like predestined. And as the aliens do come in, I feel like that was the way for him to find the light again and become a preacher. So it was kind of weird. I don't know. It's kind of weird to have like all this stuff happening, and then the aliens in the movie actually be like a catalyst for change, in the sense that it changed his view on life again, and it brought them closer together as a family. I don't know. It's just kind of funny. And I remember one scene also when I was younger, that kind of, it wasn't like scary, but it was like spooky to me, and like I thought some deep shit was going on. But rewatching it the second time, I was like, that's not that deep. But that was the scene of when Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix's characters are sitting in a very like quiet room. They've already boarded up their whole house, and they're kind of sitting watching the news and like whispering to each other because the children are sleeping. Mel Gibson's character is being like, nothing happens by coincidence, is just meaningless basically. And I remember thinking that was like super deep when I was younger, but watching it now, I thought it was actually kind of cheesy and corny. I guess it had its place in the film, but overall, I liked the movie, even though I saw some things were a little bit off about it. But I enjoyed it. It wasn't scary, did not scare me at all, but it was entertaining. I think it did what a movie is supposed to do, which is entertain you and maybe make you think a little bit. So I mean, it might have made you think, but it wasn't very, I think it was trying to be deep, but it wasn't as deep as it was trying to be. The last movie I'm going to be talking about is The Ring. Okay, and this one, I think out of all 4 movies that I'm talking about today, was the one that terrified me the most as a kid. Again, this one also came out in 2002, so I was probably about 11, maybe about to be 12. And I think this was one of the first movies I saw in theaters with my friends, because I was actually allowed to go out and do that as a kid. Even, I thought I was older, but if I was actually like 11, I think that's a little bit young. But anyways, so I saw this movie, and the whole thing scared me from beginning to end. Specifically, the scene that I remember being terrified of was this very beginning, not very beginning scene, but it was one of the beginning scenes in which that the Naomi Watts' character's cousin dies from watching the film. It shows the image of her being dead and her, like, how her face kind of looked mummified and whatnot. And that terrified me just because it was so jarring and it was so scary just to kind of see very abruptly on the screen. Watching it the second time, I just felt like the story maybe was kind of all a little over the place. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy the story too much and what it was, but I did enjoy the tone and kind of that eerie feeling you felt in your chest when you were watching it. It did not scare me the second time. I was kind of wanting it to scare me, but it didn't. The only scene that I was kind of still like holding my breath for was, again, that scene where you see the cousin kind of dead. Like, I was kind of still like bracing for that one, and it was still like pretty, like, that scene was still pretty spooky, but I think the movie overall wasn't necessarily scary, as in that it was just kind of eerie and very suspense. That's pretty much it. I mean, these are all just kind of quick thoughts that I had on all of these films right after I've watched all of them. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, if you, or I guess what movies scared you as a kid, or maybe what you think of any of these movies now, or what memories you had of them when you were a kid when you watched them. But yeah, that's it for today, and I will see you in the next one.